hope you enjoyed my average roll.
The council votes in favor of this trade, of your group going out and finding this water licorice, and in exchange, they will give you some exclusive FaceTime with their rangers, and they will share with you all of the information of the surrounding lands that they're aware of.
Okay.
So the motion is passed, but only just a lot of the people at the table, including Father Maddox and the old coot Father Bonner, voted against.
Stupid Father Bonner.
Father Yarwood, this little 15-year-old, this sickly Moakton boy, essentially, he is overjoyed at this news. On the subject of giving gifts to your group, Father Ellis, the Moakton that you rescued, asks the council's permission to gift your group with a cask of good summer ale that was being saved for winter ceremonies. This is ale that he would have made earlier this summer, that some quantity of it gets set aside to be consumed in the winter. He wants to give a cask to your group. And this idea has no legs amongst the council. People want to know, why not, if we're going to celebrate the safe return of Father Ellis, why not just tap the cask and we'll share it with the guests, sure, but to give it to them, that's what's up for discussion. What's his sound off on this topic?
How close are my allies?
They're at least 5 feet away from you because they're standing in the group. But this group goes all the way to the back door of the house, where they're standing.
Raazu's probably standing in the middle of the table.
So,
and Raazu was the one who had repeatedly said we should get something for this, right?
So Raazu is currently standing in the middle of the table, just clipped through the table, with arms crossed, staring at you, nodding.
So I'm gonna go ahead and cast one of my messages and tell Raazu, how would you feel about us trying to work out a way to share some of this ale with you for our reward? It seems like we're not going to get more than that.
Okay, now that costs... Oh, that's a cantrip. You can just do that.
Yep.
And Raazu, you can respond to that, correct? His message?
Yeah, there's a short response.
That's part of the spell, yeah.
Those of you standing out amongst the group, the three of you, I want each of you to roll me a perception check and keep hold of the numbers for now. Raazu, go ahead.
Raazu says, I prefer provisions, like actual provisions and not booze, but I guess we'll take what we can get from these yokels.
And Red, you've seen, being out and about in the town and sitting at this council, they're already very willing to provide you guys with food provisions. They're very proud of the food they grow here. They've actually... And the Carey household has shared some of their secrets with Windy, who went over to the smokehouse and learned how they make their meat and whatnot. So Raazu probably has nothing to worry about when it comes to being given provisions.
All right. Yeah, I'll agree that there's no need for us to bring the cask out of the village, assuming we can find some way to get some for our Hobgoblin friend. We'd be happy to tap it.
Okay.
I happen to know that it won't be a problem putting some in a flask and getting some to Raazu.
Do you say that out loud?
Yeah.
At that point, the entire meeting comes to a screeching halt. And standing there in the group, like, everybody's eyes turn to you for a moment. You feel very awkward. Standing next to you... what language did you say that in?
I said that in common.
In common? Okay, let me see who all speaks common here. Standing next to you is the ranger, Arianed Bolivar. She's the only of the three rangers who is a woman. She kind of just puts her elbow in your chest, in your ribcage for a second. She leans in real close and she whispers, "We cannot talk during the meeting."
Okay.
You can tell that she wants to bust out laughing, but everybody else thinks you're being disrespectful. Mother Stackpole, sitting at the table, is also grinning fiercely.
And Adrex just takes this moment to butt in and say, "Can you just let our friend in? She's really harmful."
At this point, the mayor, Father Oliver, says that for the duration of the council, it is important that the guests respect the tradition that their friend Red speaks for their house on their behalf. And then he retakes his chair. And you can no longer see him because he's sitting back behind where Raazu is standing, in the middle of the table. So the decision then is that the cask will be tapped with tonight's feasts, and that they will have a tankard set aside, filled with ale, for you to take from the village so that your hobgoblin friend can enjoy it later. Is that suitable for Red?
That seems sufficient.
Okay.
If I might ask one other thing, is there any way to allow our friend into the village?
Mother Stackpool, when she translates for you, you can tell she's saying a lot more than just what you spoke. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of exchanging glances, a lot of discussion around the table. And then Father Oliver, the mayor, speaks up and says, "And we're to understand that your companion is a hobgoblin."
Yes.
To which Ellis chimes in, "A virtuous, courageous hobgoblin. And I watched as she aided her companions dismantling this camp of orcs to free me and my son from bondage." Father Ellis is talking Raazu up here, and he is lying through his tusks because he was unconscious for that whole fight. The table starts discussing this in the Moncton tongue, and rather than try to translate what everybody's saying, is there's a lot of people being talked over each other, and out in the group, you guys also, there's some whispers and murmuring amongst the people as well. Who got a 12 or better on that perception check? The three of you out in the group.
Birdie got an 11, so no.
No.
Adrex did.
Adrex did. Anybody else?
No, I got less than that.
Okay. Right now at the table, there's this. All the Moncton are sitting around talking to each other, having this frenzied conversation about the issue Red just raised. Mother Stackpool is leaning over, speaking something to Red. Red is sitting there, not saying anything, just listening to Stackpool. And looking over, you see River Leaper standing amidst the crowd, towering over them. He's hunched down so as not to bang his head on the rafters in the top of his house. And you see him looking very intently at the table, and he seems very interested in Red's face particularly. What Mother Stackpool explains to you is another of the village's most ancient tradition, this one having never been enacted by guests. What they're discussing now is permission to use a boon granted to them by the White Mother that would make it possible for one with goblin blood to enter the village. That if this motion is carried, that your dear friend would be able to partake of all the hospitalities of a Serafall. The discussion right now, half of these people are trying to convince the other half that denying hospitality to someone who's done such a great service to the village would be unconscionable. And the other half is making the equally pertinent case that she's a hobgoblin and this is a bad idea. So this is where Red's going to have to sway the vote one way or the other. So
do I have to persuade people, or do I just have to vote?
Well, you tell me how you persuade them. You're going to have to talk some of these people down.
If I may, for a moment, first of all, I would like to thank all of you for both your hospitality and for foreseeing this ancient rite. Further, I would like to speak on behalf of my companion. I would not be alive right now if not for her. She personally put herself between the orcs that had your people hostage and me, and I was on the ground bleeding until she got to me. She would do this for any of you. She does this without a thought. I've seen her do it many times in the past. And she is one of the most virtuous women I know.
And Father Ellis affirms everything you say, to the point where he's kind of talking you down now. Like, I went down in one blow from the orcish blade. The hobgoblin valiantly stepped over his lifeless corpse, so he was not
Raazu
carried off
is
into the
just
darkness.
picturing the time that she shanked somebody in prison.
Go ahead and
just
make,
looking at Red.
make that charisma persuasion check.
Nodal, can you roll for that for me?
Looking to
Boy,
beat a-
everything is breaking.
Oh, nice.
All
Two
my
sli-
sheets are online, so this is.
You
a bit
can
of a pain
figure
in the
that
ass,
out.
but
I rolled a
everything's breaking.
6.
I've got a +6.
So that's 12.
12? Okay.
I think that's worth 2 blips for a reroll.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know how many blips I have, but it's more than 2.
Probably. That's a
Everything's
12.
broken right now. Sorry.
So an 18.
Okay. Yeah, you needed to beat a 14. And you and Father Ellis talk up Raazu's accomplishments, and the vote squeaks by. Only made it by 1 vote. And the mayor says, very well, I will meet with the guests during the meal this evening and discuss what is necessary for the hobgoblin to undergo this rite. The final thing on the topic tonight, just as the mayor is about to call the meeting, Father Bonner, the old cantankerous fart, he speaks up and he insists that the apple border extend beyond the bridges. That he saw the little squirrely one sitting by the bridge all day long, holding an unnaturally glowing stick. And he can't be certain, but if he was a betting man, and of course he's not, he would say that this vile hobgoblin was with him the whole day. So he wants to see the apple border extended beyond the bridges. And this is immediately shut down by Oliver. This discussion is deemed unimportant for purposes of the council, and you see a lot of assent amongst the rest of the people sitting there. Go ahead and make me everybody can make me an insight check on this, except for Raazu, who cannot hear what's being said.
Nodal, I've got a +7 on that.
All right. So that's a 21 from me
10 from Birdie.
and a 23 from Red.
Yeah, if you beat a 12, it's very easy to see what's happening here. The Moktons seem uncomfortable discussing the topic that Father Bonner just raised, and it's not even discussed or put to a vote.
Birdie's just upset they called him squirrely.
You're about the size of a squirrel, like maybe a large mutant squirrel.
I know, but they don't have to point it out.
Lizardy.
A giant
Lizardy
miniature
looking
space hamster.
And with that, the meeting is adjourned. The feasting begins. Food is begun to brought out. The party starts spilling out into the thoroughfare outside of the house. The Ellis boy returns to their house and brings back this fine cask of summer ale, and the first tankard is drawn and set aside for Raazu for later consumption. At some
Birdie
point,
walks up.
Red.
Raazu comes up to Red and says, "Hey, so what'd you get?"
I believe I've managed to convince them to do some sort of ritual to make you able to enter the village.
Well, wonderful. What about provisions?
We can easily get personal provisions. I don't know that we can resupply the sled with what the orcs ate.
Birdie walks up and like lightly slaps Red's like, you didn't ask about the magic stuff.
I don't believe. I mean, given that they were speaking about, being peaceful people and not having anything to do with the outer world or warfare, the only magic I could imagine they might have would be like a hoe of killing or something like that.
We're in an invisible village.
Yeah, how useful is invisibility to you if you can't bring it with you?
And at this point, Father Oliver steps up in such a way that he just walks through Raazu and approaches Red.
Birdie just has his hands like just over both eyes. He's just shaking his head.
Wendy's like gesturing in that direction. Did you see that? Like, how can you not be interested?
Father Oliver speaks serviceable common, but it's not perfect. He's very uncomfortable with the tongue. He explains that the White Mother, who guards the village from outsiders, he says he can explain to you what is required of your friend. That after you all have eaten your fill, and make sure that you get to that cask of ale before it's gone, he asks that you collect your companions up and meet him in his study, down in his cellar.
All right.
He heads that way immediately. What are the rest of you doing at this feast tonight?
Well, thanks to the foresight of some members of our party, we have 2 water skins we can fill up for Raazu.
Well, they've already set aside a tanker for her.
I mean, extra beer never hurt anybody.
Adrex is getting his drank on.
Okay. Is anybody doing anything important at this party?
Rude.
That's very important.
Not
Thank you.
particularly.
Just getting your drink on? Okay.
Like, Birdie is just gonna walk around and listen to everybody. He's not gonna drink.
Hey, Birdie, make me a... Are you trying to eavesdrop the way Red was earlier?
Yes.
Being
Like, I'm like very specifically because like ever since Red put forth the theory of, hey, maybe they're sacrificing babies.
And is there anybody specific that you're trying to get close to in this town?
The Goliath, like, because he's the one that stands out the most.
Okay.
Like, from everybody in the village. Like, he just catches, because he's so tall, he, like Birdie just distrusts him.
Like, he's not in the
Stands
house
up the
anymore. As soon as the meeting convened, he was one of the first ones out. He's really uncomfortable. So he's taking his food outside and socializing with the Moakton out there. I do want to just clarify real quick. I had this in my notes, but I didn't save it because I'm an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Red is not able to really hide his sigil on his lips. Does anybody else display it openly? Because Raazu's is on her hand, but she wears gloves usually, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and then Adrex as well. His is on the scales of his fingers. Does he wear gloves or gauntlets or anything?
I think we've established that he does work. So I think his is hidden.
Okay, and then Wendy and Birdie, both of your marks are underneath your cloaks. So
Mine's
only...
underneath my cloak, but it does show up very nicely when I billow it.
Okay. All right. So yeah, don't bother making an investigation check of any kind, Birdie, because when you go out and you begin to approach River Leaper, the Goliath, he politely ends the conversation he's having with some of the other Moakton, and when you approach, he immediately, just very flagrantly, says, well, first of all, he expresses gratitude, because I don't think he's had any conversation with Birdie yet.
Yes, he has, because that's where I spent yesterday.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were there all day. So he's already pretty comfortable chit-chatting with you. He asks, and he motions to his lips and says, the burn marks on the face of your Yuan-ti friend, at first I mistook them for a scar. And as he's talking to you, you realize he's leading you across the thoroughfare over towards these woods.
Okay.
You going with him, or are you stopping him?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he says, at first I mistook them for a scar of some kind, but during the meeting, I saw that it made markings. And he asks what you know about them, if you know their purpose.
We have some idea of the purpose, but we are just beginning to explore that.
He says he asks because he's seen their like before.
That makes Birdie perk up,
Okay.
and he like immediately and very enthusiastically asks where.
Okay. Does Birdie know anything about giants?
Probably not.
Okay. Make
No.
me a. We're gonna call this intelligence religion.
Okay.
Make this a disadvantage.
All right. So we got a. So that'd be a 10.
A 10. Okay.
Yes.
He tells you that in his prayers to Grandfather Dreamer, he has received answers that seemed to make no sense, gave no indication on what he should do. He says he's known about a course of action that has been told to him many nights over his life since he left the mountains, but it wasn't until today that this course of action made much sense. And then he tells you that he will be traveling with you and your group tomorrow when you leave for the spring.
Okay, I will inform my party. We will be happy to have you.
He then begins to ask you more questions about where you've seen these marks other than red before. And at this point you realize you're standing beyond this tree line. There's nobody else around.
All right. So we ran into a very strange phenomenon that placed that mark onto red.
So you're coming
I'm
clean
trying-
about red, but you're trying to hide everybody else's?
Yes, for
Make
now.
a charisma deception check. You do not have to roll particularly high on this one.
I made a 3.
Does it stay a 3?
Yes.
Oh,
Wait, charisma what?
deception.
Oh, deception.
So add your charisma mod, and if you're trained in deception, add your
no,
proficiency
it's
bonus.
3.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just 3.
Okay.
I was looking at the wrong thing, but yeah, no.
So you kind of relay the story about how red got marked. Do you tell him what red is able to do with that mark?
No. It's like but I want to, but I'm going to tell him because it's not my place to give that much information.
Okay.
That if he wants to talk to Red, I will go with him, and we will, and then we can see what he is willing to tell.
He says there will be plenty of time to speak with Red on the trail tomorrow, but he kind of leaves you with this. He tells you that if Grandfather Dreamer, if what he has been telling him all these years is true, then your friend Red has a very long and difficult road ahead of him to walk. A very burdensome journey. And that if you bear any love with your friend, that you should stand in his defense along that road.
Birdie just nods at him.
Adrex, Constitution
Yes,
saving
sir.
throw.
Yes!
Mr. Getting Crunk.
There we go.
This is the saving throw that every 8-year-old DM has his party make in the first session.
Yep.
Doesn't Brewer's Tools give me something? Ignore effects of... no.
No, you need poison resistance for that.
That's an 11.
Adrex, would you like to have a drinking competition?
Yes.
Red is immune to poison.
11.
11?
Yeah.
I mean, you had their... Well, what are you drinking, first of all? Because, I mean, they've got this good summer ale out, but they've also got their standard wines and things that they're having with their feast. What are you getting
Well,
crunk on?
first we're having the summer ale because Apparently, they wanted to gift that to us. So.
And that's the good stuff. That's frothy and golden of color, and you can't see through the glass. That's the good stuff. That's a meal in a mug right there.
And then, I mean, that's the gateway, right? So once he's had that, it's whatever's put in front of him.
Okay. So Adrex, you're feeling a little tipsy, swaying a little bit back and forth as Red collects you all up to go to the cellar. Does anybody else want to do anything with this party before we move down to the cellar?
Yeah.
Raazu, you can't go to the cellar.
Raazu, when she sees the rest of the party congregate, and then she'll follow along with them, but then they'll disappear down through the floor, through the dirt, and looks like the kid who got picked last for kickball.
Raazu walks out onto the floor, like lowering her body down, pantomiming going downstairs.
Raazu, you've never felt. I mean, now it's nighttime. Now it's dark out, and you're standing alone in this just vast open field, and you're looking around. So you're thinking every orc in a 5-mile radius can see you very clearly right now.
Raazu is going to retreat to the bridge,
Okay.
and back to our campsite.
Okay, go back to your camp. Are you lighting a fire?
Yeah.
Okay, so so now every orc within 5 miles really can see you. Cool.
Yep.
You guys go down into Father Oliver's cellar, and he and his wife are down there, and the first thing you smell is very strong coffee being brewed.
For Adrex.
The wife's name is Beatrice Oliver. They're a middle-aged couple, and they offer you some coffee. They offer you a place to sit in this comfortable little cellar. They have a small wood-burning stove in the center of the room to heat up the cellar, and the heat transfers up into the meeting room higher in the house. You also see that Father Oliver has a respectable collection of tomes, of leather-bound books, scrolls and things, very neatly organized on a case. You guys haven't seen its like in the village as of yet. He asks if any of you have had dealings with the Fae before. Men of your stature who travel the land having adventures. Have you come across the Sylvan tricksters and their glamour?
Yes, I have.
Red has.
Mm-hmm.
He asks
I'm
that
gonna
if,
say Wendy does as well, and I'm actually gonna pick that as Wendy's language.
so you're taking.
Okay, I already have Sylvan, which is why I'm saying I have it, but...
Okay. So Wendy, you can either take Sylvan, which is kind of like a general Fae language,
I
or
want a specific one.
or you can pick a specific kind of Fae and have
Yeah.
their language. Okay. He says that you may have heard her name spoken, but Asera Fall's existence is owed to a fairy named White Mother, to whom they keep an altar in their woods. And White Mother has gifted them the ability to remain invisible and untouchable by anyone in their veins with the blood of orcs, goblin, or Yikaria. Anybody, I know Nodal knows what Yikaria because he's running Storm King's Thunder. Does anybody else have any idea?
No.
The Yikaria are yak folk. They're known to be mountain barbarians, essentially.
The worst.
Yeah, they're yak folk, and if any of you decide that your character has run in with them before, I will allow you to right now make a intelligence history check. But you don't get to make this check unless your character has actually had a run-in with the Yikari at some point. Nobody wants that? Probably for the best. The Yikari suck. Essentially, White Mother has put a glamour on the village so that anybody who has orc blood, goblin blood, or Yikari blood is unable to find the village, unable to touch its structures and unable to harm its citizens while they're inside the borders of the village. But she also gave them, many, many generations ago, a boon if the day comes when they need to make an exception, when they need to extend their hospitality to one of those evil bloods. She said to send them to her spring in the foothills far to the east of the village, about half a day's journey out. He says there's a spring there, and if your friend undergoes a particular ritual, it will be as though her goblin blood is swept away, and she will be able to enjoy the hospitality of a Serafal and meet the citizenry, partake of their foods, and be a friend to the village. And this is what the council has decided to share with you.
So having dealt with some fairies in my time, when you say it's like her blood is swept away, what exactly did they say at the time?
And right now, Raazu is on the other side of the river saying, they're probably not talking about anything bad, right? He says that the issue has never come up in the village before. Nobody's ever floated the idea of using this boon. Because they have a great hatred for orcs especially. Orcs are raping, pillaging, murdering assholes. They don't see a lot of goblins. They're on the wrong side of the river, and they don't see a lot of the Yikari either, because they're way up in the mountains typically. But orcs are a big problem around here. If you're worried about harm coming to your companion, he says that even though they've never tried this before, that he would put the worry from your mind. That White Mother would not wish harm on anybody that the village deems worthy.
So I have a question. Like, we're all four of us are there, right?
Everybody
It's
but
not-
Raazu. You're in this room
Okay.
with the mayor and his wife.
Okay.
Adrex is using everything in his power to be quiet.
Adrex is having difficulty following the conversation because he's
Yes,
shit-faced.
he is. Yes, he is. But
Birdie,
Head
trying
swinging
to be-
wildly.
he's trying to be a very good guest, and it's
Yeah.
taking all of his effort.
Birdie wants to inquire about the books and the scrolls that he has on display.
He says there's really, that's his personal library. There's not really any knowledge therein that pertains to using this spring. Make me an insight check, Birdie.
Boy, I'm just okay. So that would be that's 3, I think. Yeah, so that'd be a 6.
I mean, they're gross pig people. Their faces are hard to read at the best of times. But you get the sense that the mayor is just very protective of his library. And then he just changes the subject back to the spring. Here's what Raazu needs to do. The spring's about half a day out. So you can, if you leave tomorrow morning, you go out, do the ritual. You'll be back by sundown tomorrow. Raazu will first have to learn a prayer. She'll learn to speak the words, and he tells you the words, and then explains that it's the Mokden language for White Mother see me, White Mother cleanse me. You'll take her to this spring. You'll take with you a particular substance, which is being prepared right now. It's a kind of gruel mash made out of their psychedelic plant. That you'll go to the spring. Actually, I'm sorry, you won't be back by sundown tomorrow. The ritual has to be done at sundown. So you'd be back you'd be back tomorrow morning if you march through the night. But Raazu would go there. She would disrobe, slather her body with this psychedelic mash, wade out into the spring at twilight, and speak this prayer. And then White Mother would cleanse her blood so that she might come back to the village. And if done properly, that this ritual will indicate to White Mother that Raazu is a friend of a Serafal, and that she would be recognized as such from that day forward. Does that sound agreeable to all of you?
How many days out are we from getting back to?
You are in. It's right now. It's the night of the 4th day.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be half a day's journey to get to the spring. You'll have to camp there until twilight. Then Raazu does the thing. Then it's a half a day back. So you'll get back at about maybe midnight, in time to get a good night's sleep for the following day.
So that'd leave us, like, what, 4 days to get back to Lizardfolk Land?
But this factors into your decisions at all. Acera Fall is a 2-day journey from the lake out here.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
It's plenty of time to get back.
So that gives us 2 days to get lost.
There's very little chance of getting lost. I mean, you just have to basically walk east until you hit the mountains. Then you will see landmarks indicating where the spring is. This is a place where in ancient times the Mokden used to travel to often. But something legendary story, blah, blah, blah. The White Mother sent them a river for clean water. So they no longer had to make that journey. He shares with you his anxieties about this boon. That, as virtuous and heroic as your friend may be, she's still a hobgoblin. And somewhere inside, and you see him looking at especially Red at this point. He says, and somewhere inside that monstrous nature resides.
She's fine.
Says Adrex much louder than he expected to.
Birdie pats him on the back and just it'll be okay.
You're 2 feet tall. You can reach his butt at best.
Oh, well, I pat him on the butt then. Like, don't worry, it'll be okay. I think ultimately the decision is whether or not to undertake this will be not up to us. We can just present all the facts.
He nods. He says that if you decide not to go, if you would please, on behalf of him personally and his good lady wife, extend their apologies to your friend that she wasn't able to partake of the feast. And he seems very conflicted talking about this hobgoblin, but he says that he would want her to know that. And you guys are given directions out to the foothills to the east, to a place where you see tall cliffs of red stone on either side. You follow in between the 2 cliffs and you will come to the spring.
And that's where we'll meet the good mother. As Adrex says as he places his head down on the table.
So wait, we're here? We're supposed to go through some cliffs?
No, you'll actually be traveling to a place that's about here.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like about half a day out. You'll do a thing, half a day back. This is a one full day investment of time, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's all he's got for you, unless you guys have other questions or concerns you want to raise with the good mayor. Beatrice Oliver gingerly picks Adrex's head up and puts a doily underneath it. So he doesn't drool on her table. Okay. After you guys leave, do you go back to Mother Stackpool's house, or do you go to Raazu's camp on the river?
Well, we've got to tell Raazu what's going on.
Okay. And does Birdie share anything about River Leaper?
Yes, he does. He tells everybody about River Leaper's jaunt, or his little. He led me into the forest, and he told me that he has seen symbols similar to what, very specifically, was on Red's face, and that he would like to come with us tomorrow. And I told him. He inquired about if we knew what the effects of it were, and I told him that he would have to ask Red because I wasn't comfortable giving that information out. But he seems trustworthy to me from my limited interactions so far. I did not tell him about anybody else's other than Red's because it is obvious and impossible to hide.
Is Raazu involved in this conversation?
Yeah, this is back at Rasu's camp.
Okay.
Well, I could wait. Is my? Oh yeah, sorry. I could always wear a mask.
I say we pump him for as much information as he's willing to give regarding these marks. No sense in volunteering as much as we can.
He didn't seem to me to know much about their function, but he did mention that he was being sent images from his god, and I don't remember what the god's name is. Brick Road.
Grandfather Dreamer.
Grandfather Dreamer, which I am not familiar with. So if any of you have any information to add on that, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, at this point, if any of you speak giant or have had significant contact with giants, I'll allow you to make a intelligence religion check at this point. But if not, then nobody knows who Grandfather Dreamer is. It's Aunt Nancy. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, probably not giants. I'm talking to Goliaths probably, but
okay.
Just because I live on a mountain.
So what does Raazu think about all of this information?
Well, as far as doing the ritual, she wonders if this could be used to give Huyan's encampment a similar protection.
Well, if we're going there to speak to the god, we could bring it up.
Birdie puts his fist on his hand and he's like, "Oh right, we forgot to tell them that we forgot to ask them for help."
I'd imagine they would say, "Take it up with this white mother."
Yeah, I don't expect that they would be particularly interested in getting involved in a war. We might be able to inform them that they might not have a choice, but honestly, it looks like they might.
I was planning on bringing it up, but once I heard that they want us to go get information from this white mother, I figured that's more worth our time for the moment. We get that information and we can use it to do what we need to.
So, yeah. I think it's worth our time.
Birdie also says, "So also I'm thinking about stealing those scrolls in the mayor's house."
Please don't.
And Adrex jolts up when he hears that and goes, "No, don't do that. Bad idea."
Birdie looks down at his feet and just kicks at the floor. But they
could you guarantee you wouldn't be caught?
No stealing from the host village.
Raazu is very pointedly asking this question.
I mean, we wouldn't need to steal them. We could just borrow them from a bit to read them. They're scrolls, right?
Yeah, we could copy them.
Yeah, it's just borrowing.
Put them back.
Let them know you want to borrow.
I listen. That's what I would do.
If you can absolutely
you ground people freak out all the time when I borrow things.
What did Raazu say?
Birdie, if you can guarantee unequivocally that you will not get caught, you have my blessing to try it.
No. You may ask to borrow. You may not take.
It's getting very difficult to understand Adrex at this point. He's right on the verge of his blackout.
His eyes are closed and he is.
By the way, did anybody bring me my mug that nobody's told me about yet?
Yeah, somebody brought you the tank.
They have drunk it on the way here.
Did you? Did Adrex drink her beer?
I think he might have.
Oh, that's too bad. So yeah, Adrex hands you the mug, but it's empty.
I take it this is for me.
Mm-hmm. Didn't Wendy get some in Those flasks.
Windy filled up a skin
Yeah.
with
I
more
filled
ale.
up 2 skins, and I pull out a skin and I say, "I'll give this to you if you agree that you're not angry about me giving you water skins."
Sets her jaw.
A+ bribery there.
It's really good.
She sets her jaw and takes the skin without a word.
And the summer ale is excellent and inviting, and it fills your belly. So what is the plan for tomorrow morning? We're all setting out? Is there any... Birdie, are you breaking into this house tonight?
I mean, if I could get somebody to help me, and like maybe cause a distraction, possibly, but by himself, no.
We can do it when we get back.
Okay, yeah, it's probably smart.
Just in case they have an unreasonable reaction
Just get the heck out of Dodge.
to our
Or,
bar.
excuse me, Ace or a fall.
So at sunup the next morning, Raazu, as you wake up first and you're breaking camp, you see River Leaper just kind of step out of nowhere, just kind of appears as he crosses the border of the village into where your camp is set up. The tall Goliath. And he looks you up and down, regards you for the first time. He is a very tall and lanky Goliath. There's not a lot of mass to him. He has like long, gangly limbs. And one of his legs, you see he's wearing a wooden brace with brass fasteners. And you see it troubles him as he walks. The first thing he says is that he's a friend of your companions, and he pats his legs and says, "Don't worry, it doesn't slow me down that much." And then he offers his hand to you.
Raazu accepts.
He asks
What's the burden?
how late into the day do your friends plan to sleep? Did you guys all crash here at the camp, or did you carry Adrex back to Mother Stackpool's house?
I would have brought Adrex back and then gone to the camp myself.
Okay. Then, yeah, if you're at the
Raazu-
camp, you're rousing at about this time.
Raazu looks up at the sky and then starts banging her halberd against the supports of the bridge loud and starts shouting loudly, "On your feet! Wake up! Wake up! Get up! Get up!"
And you guys could all hear the faint banging from several hundred yards away. So Adrex is back at Stackpool's house. Who else is at the Widow Stackpool's?
I was sleeping in this forest.
Okay.
Birdie was at the camp because he decided that he wasn't going to leave Raazu alone.
Windy. Make me an intelligence saving throw.
Nice. That ain't me. 7.
So are you sleeping? Because the only actual feature here was that small altar, if you recall. Where are you sleeping in relation to that? Are you curled up on
In
the
one of
ground?
these trees.
You're perched up in a tree. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody take the benefit of a long rest except for Windy. Windy, you have very, very troubling dreams. You keep starting yourself awake, and the imagery is hard to keep a hold on in your head. And every time you wake up, you feel your head is very heavy and very hot. In the morning, when the sun comes up and you piece it all together, you recall the imagery you saw in the tomb with the small mercury figure being troubled by those claws. You saw the same figure in your dream. The little doll-like figure was in this forest, actually, very near to this altar, taking shelter in some of the foliage. And stalking in between the trees, you saw a figure that you're pretty sure was the White Mother. And her face was beautiful, but also terrible. It was very smooth. It had no features except for her eyes. The only other part of her body you could see are her arms. Everything else was cloaked under these white, glowing robes. And everywhere she stepped, flowers burst from the earth. And everywhere she touched a tree, branches and leaves would erupt. But eventually she captured this small mercury figure and she crushed it in her hands, and it splattered the liquid of it, and you would startled awake, and you got no rest last night.
I'm gonna put 2 and 2 together and go check out that altar.
And the altar in the morning light, it's just this small little stone altar. It's just a little granite.
Any interesting ornamentations?
No, there's no ornamentations, no markings, no runes, which is what you're asking me, really. And even if you take a few minutes and check out the trees around them, you've heard in town that it's forbidden to take wood or resources from this little copse of trees. This is kind of holy ground to the villagers. You don't see any markings on the trees. You don't see a lot of indication that the Moke didn't come here at all.
All right.
Adrex, stepping out of Mother Stackpole's house, you're approached by Irioned, one of the 2 rangers you met yesterday.
Is the sun always this bright?
And she grins and she asks how much of the summer ale you drank.
I lost count.
She says half of a mug. Half a mug's a good night's sleep for her.
Oh.
She's carrying a small bundle wrapped in cloth, by the way.
Oh, I don't think I want to drink for a good week. Thank you.
She offers you the cloth. She says that the great service that you and your friends have done this village, make no mistake, the voices at the council last night who spoke in dissent to your group, even they feel great gratitude for what you've done. Your snake friend stepped on a couple of toes, but you are still friends of the village. We want you to not forget that.
That's ironic.
Yeah, she hands you this.
Oh, well,
this
thank you very much.
And taking this thin bundle, you can feel there's 2 arrows inside of it.
Ah, arrows, huh?
She tells you, as she kind of leans in. It's early morning. Nobody's really out and about yet, but she's telling you this in confidence. She says that the rangers have other tasks than just collecting meat and furs. That from time to time, without the council's permission, they have embarked into dungeons and ruins in the area. And that these arrows were taken from one of those ruins. She thinks that you and your companions can put them to better use than she can, since she's only shooting it at badgers and wolves and things.
Okay.
These are the kinds of arrows you'll want to shoot at things that can shoot back.
Oh. Anything? Do they just look like normal arrows, or?
No, she's giving you 2 + 1 arrows.
2 + 1 arrows?
Yep.
Got it. Will be Birdie's best friend today.
So yeah, Adrex comes waltzing into y'all's camp carrying these 2 + 1 arrows.
Nice. The sun is really bright today.
Birdie agrees. It was an hour ago.
Birdie, are we gonna split them up?
Yeah, we can each take one.
As soon as you fire a magical arrow, it is no longer magical.
All right.
You mean after it hits something, or miss it?
Yeah, as soon as if you fire and it either hits or misses, it loses its magic.
Right.
Because if
But
it
it's not
misses,
like-
you run the risk of not being able to recover it anyway.
Yeah, but not like it leaves the bow and then it doesn't do you any good because it's no longer magic.
Right, it
I'm
has
just
to.
joking. Never mind.
God, that'd be a dick move on my part, wouldn't it? No, the book says as soon as you fire it. So what do you want me to do? All right.
So you split the +1 arrows.
Yeah. And
Choo choo.
All right.
Oh, whoops.
And with that, you all begin embarking with River Leaper out to the spring. Let's go ahead and take a nice break there while I roll the random encounter that will be your downfall. Let's reconvene at about 4:45. Go ahead and get your coffee, get your bagel. We'll be back in 15 minutes.
BRB.